Uniontown, Ohio, an ordinary suburban neighborhood where the Dunham family lived what seemed like a picture-perfect life. Melissa, a respected professional, Jason, a devoted father, and their 3 children, Renee, Amber, and Evan, brought light to their community. But on a quiet summer evening, a single welfare check shattered that image forever. Behind the front door of the Dunham home, officers uncovered a scene so devastating, so unthinkable, that it left an entire town reeling. What happened to the Dunham family, and why? Tonight, we uncover the truth behind a tragedy that no one saw coming. On August 24, 2023, the tranquil community of Uniontown, Ohio, became the epicenter of a tragedy that no one could have anticipated. The Dunham family, a seemingly ordinary household, lived on a quiet street where neighbors waved hello, children played freely, and life moved at its familiar pace. Jason Dunham, 46, was known as a reserved but polite figure in the neighborhood. His wife, Melissa, 42, was a driven and accomplished partner at a prestigious accounting firm where she was admired for her professionalism and dedication. Together, they raised 3 children: Renee, 15, a high school band member with a bright future; Amber, 12, a vibrant pre-teen active in Girl Scouts; and Evan, 9, a playful boy who loved his time in the Boy Scouts. Everything about the Dunhams appeared picture perfect. That is, until a call from Melissa's coworkers changed everything. Concerned that she hadn't shown up for work or responded to messages for 2 days, they requested a welfare check at the family's home. It was a precautionary step, surely nothing serious, just an oversight or a forgotten phone somewhere. When officers arrived at the quiet suburban home on Carnation Avenue that evening, they found all of the family's vehicles parked outside. Packages and mail were stacked on the doorstep, a telltale sign of absence. Officers knocked several times, receiving no answer. With growing concern, they entered the residence, and what awaited them inside would haunt even the most seasoned investigators. In separate bedrooms, the bodies of Renee, Amber, and Evan were discovered, each lying still, each a victim of gunshot wounds. Jason and Melissa were found together in the master bedroom. As officers processed the grim scene, they realized the unthinkable. The deaths weren't the result of an external intruder. Investigators quickly identified Jason Dunham as the likely perpetrator, the man responsible for taking the lives of his wife, his children, and ultimately his own. The news spread quickly, shattering the quiet facade of Uniontown. How could such a tragedy occur within a family so well regarded? Why would Jason, a father and husband, commit such a devastating act? And could anyone have seen this coming? As details of the investigation unfolded, the Dunham family tragedy became more than just another crime. It became a chilling reminder of how little we sometimes know about the lives of those closest to us. In this video, we'll uncover the events that led to the devastating tragedy within the Dunham family, a case that left an entire community in shock. Through detailed accounts, we aim to explore the timeline of events, the family's life leading up to that fateful day, and the aftermath that has left countless unanswered questions. With careful attention to the facts and respect for those involved, our goal is to shed light on what may have driven this seemingly perfect family to such a heartbreaking end. Along the way, we'll reflect on the importance of mental health awareness, the hidden struggles behind closed doors, and the lasting impact this tragedy has had on those who knew and loved the Dunhams. This isn't just a story about a crime, it's a story about the human condition, community, and the need for understanding in the face of unimaginable loss. The Dunhams were the kind of family you'd pass by on a quiet Ohio street and think, they've got it all. Jason Dunham, 46, was a man known for his precision and order, traits he carried from his job into his home life. A licensed gun owner, he was described by neighbors as a reserved man who valued structure. Melissa Dunham, 42, was the heart of the family, a successful accountant at a prestigious firm where she had worked for nearly 2 decades. To her colleagues, she was not just a coworker but a leader who inspired confidence. To her children, she was a loving, attentive mother who balanced her demanding career with family life effortlessly. Their 3 children, Renee, Amber, and Evan, were the pride and joy of the neighborhood. Renee, 15, was a bright high school student and a dedicated member of the school band, known for her discipline and creativity. Amber, 12, was the social butterfly of the family, active in Girl Scouts and always bringing friends home for after-school snacks. And then there was Evan, just 9 years old, a cheerful Boy Scout whose endless curiosity kept his parents on their toes. From the outside, They seemed to represent everything good about small-town life. Their home on Carnation Avenue was always bustling with activity, from neighborhood barbecues to birthday parties. Friends and neighbors often remarked on how close the family seemed, how involved Jason and Melissa were in their children's lives. But as police would later discover, appearances can be deceiving. Hidden beneath this idyllic facade were threads of a story no one could have imagined. A story that would leave a permanent scar on this once peaceful community. The Dunham family wasn't just a household, they were a cornerstone of their community in Uniontown, Ohio. Melissa Dunham, a partner at the prestigious accounting firm Bober Markey Fedorovich & Co., was known for her sharp intellect and her compassionate approach to leadership. For 18 years, her dedication to her career was matched only by her devotion to her family. Colleagues described her as a kind-hearted leader who went out of her way to mentor others and foster a supportive environment at work. Her children, Renee, Amber, and Evan, were the kind of kids who lit up every room they entered. Renee, the eldest, was a bright and talented 15-year-old who played the flute in the high school marching band. She was a proud member of Lake High School's music program, performing at local events and parades, bringing joy to her classmates and the community. Amber, just 12, had a quieter disposition but was equally beloved. She was deeply involved in her Girl Scouts troop, where she learned skills like community service and teamwork. Neighbors recall her as a kind and thoughtful girl who always looked out for others. 9-year-old Evan was the baby of the family, a vivacious and curious boy who poured his energy into the local Boy Scouts. He loved outdoor activities and took pride in earning badges for camping, hiking, and teamwork. His playful nature and wide smile made him a favorite among the neighborhood children. Jason, though less visible than his wife and kids, was seen as a supportive father who took pride in his family's achievements. He attended his children's events, from band performances to scouting ceremonies, and his presence was a constant in their lives. The Dunhams were the kind of family that others aspired to emulate: active, kind, and seemingly close-knit. Neighbors described them as friendly and approachable, always quick to lend a hand or share a kind word. Their involvement in school activities, local scouting programs, and community events made them familiar faces, known and loved by many. But as the days passed following the tragedy, the community was left grappling with an agonizing question: how could such an admired family fall victim to such a horrifying fate? To the neighbors who knew them, the Dunham family seemed like the cornerstone of an ideal suburban life in Uniontown, Ohio. Their home on Carnation Avenue sat among neatly trimmed lawns and quiet streets where everyone waved hello and exchanged friendly nods. Melissa Dunham, a respected accountant and partner at a prominent firm, was often described as the glue that held her family together. She was the kind of person who seemed to juggle it all effortlessly: work, family, and community. Melissa's presence in the neighborhood was hard to miss. She was warm, approachable, and always involved in her children's lives. Whether it was a school event, a scouting meeting, or just a weekend trip to the local park, Melissa was there. She was the type of mom who remembered everyone's name, asked how you were doing, and genuinely listened to the answer. Neighbors admired her energy and devotion, and some even said they looked up to her as an example of how to balance it all. Jason Dunham, Melissa's husband, was more reserved. He wasn't the type to stop and chat for long, but he was polite and cordial. He'd wave as he mowed the lawn or nod in greeting when passing a neighbor. To those who lived nearby, he came across as a steady, reliable figure, a man who kept to himself but cared deeply for his family. Together, Jason and Melissa seemed to complement one another, Melissa's warmth balanced by Jason's quiet presence. Their children, Renee, Amber, and Evan, were a lively bunch who brought an unmistakable energy to the neighborhood. Renee, the oldest at 15, was known for her talents in the high school band. Many in the community had watched her perform at local events, her proud family cheering her on from the stands. Amber, 12, was described as bubbly and kind-hearted, always eager to help others, while Evan, the youngest at 9, was full of curiosity and enthusiasm, particularly for his adventures in Boy Scouts. To see them playing outside, laughing, and riding bikes was a common and comforting sight, a reminder of the simple joys of family life. For many, the Dunhams represented everything good about their tight-knit community. Neighbors like Edmund and Denise Gazdacko, who lived just a few doors down, recalled countless small moments that painted the picture of a family deeply rooted in love and togetherness. But as is often the case, appearances can be deceiving. While Melissa's warmth and Jason's quiet demeanor painted one picture, some neighbors recalled fleeting moments that hinted at a different reality beneath the surface. Looking back, there were subtle cues that now seem significant, small, isolated incidents that might have hinted at tension or strain. But at the time, no one could have imagined that this family, whose lives seemed so ordinary, so intertwined with the community, would become the center of such a devastating tragedy. To the residents of Uniontown, the Dunhams weren't just neighbors. They were friends, classmates, and teammates. Their loss wasn't just a headline. It was a wound that cut deeply into the fabric of a close-knit town. The shockwaves from that quiet house on Carnation Avenue were felt far beyond its walls, leaving everyone grappling with the same haunting question: how could this happen? In the quiet, close-knit suburb of Uniontown, Ohio, the Dunham family was the picture of normalcy. Jason and Melissa Dunham were well known and respected in their community, and their 3 children, Renee, Amber, and Evan, were active participants in local school and scouting activities. To neighbors and friends, the Dunhams embodied stability, ambition, and family values. Melissa, 42, was a prominent figure in her field. As a partner at Bober Markey Fedorovich & Co., a respected accounting firm in Fairlawn, she had built a reputation as a dedicated professional with a sharp mind for corporate tax strategy. Her colleagues admired her not only for her expertise, but also for her leadership and commitment to mentorship. Melissa's contributions to her profession had not gone unnoticed. She was the recipient of several accolades, including the Woman of Professional Excellence Award and the Greater Akron Chamber's 30 for the Future Award in 2019. In her personal life, Melissa was a devoted mother, managing to balance a demanding career with raising 3 children who adored her. Jason, 46, worked in sales and business development at POS Highway, a company specializing in point-of-sale systems for businesses. While not as outwardly accomplished as his wife, Jason was described as a committed father who took pride in his family's achievements. Neighbors often saw him working in the yard or playing with the children. However, those who knew the family closely described Jason as having a controlling personality, a trait that occasionally created tension in the household, though nothing alarming enough to draw concern. The Dunham children were the heart of their community. Renee, 15, was a bright and talented 9th grader who loved being part of her school's band. Her performances were a source of pride for the family, with Melissa and Jason attending every recital. Amber, 12, and Evan, 9, were equally active. Both participated in scouting, with Amber excelling in Girl Scouts and Evan enthusiastically involved in Boy Scouts. Their weekends were often filled with trips to community parks or scout events, where they played alongside other children from the neighborhood. Neighbors Edmund and Denise Gadzacko, who lived nearby, frequently interacted with the Dunhams. Denise described Melissa as a wonderful mother, always putting her children first. Jason, she recalled, was a nice man, but controlling. Edmund added that the Dunham children were polite and kind-hearted, often seen helping their parents with household chores or riding their bikes through the neighborhood. Despite any minor criticisms, no one could have predicted the tragedy that was about to unfold. In the days leading up to August 24, 2023, life appeared to go on as usual for the Dunhams. The children attended school and prepared for the upcoming scout season. Melissa worked late hours at her accounting firm, a common occurrence during peak business seasons. Jason, meanwhile, was seen running errands and maintaining their home on Carnation Avenue. Yet, beneath the surface, there were subtle signs that something was amiss. On August 22, Melissa missed a work meeting, an unusual occurrence for someone so diligent and punctual. Coworkers tried reaching her via phone, but their calls went unanswered. By the next day, Melissa still hadn't responded, and her absence began to raise alarm. A concerned colleague, knowing how uncharacteristic it was for her to disappear without explanation, decided to contact the local authorities for a welfare check. When Uniontown police arrived at the Dunham residence on the evening of August 24, they found no immediate signs of disturbance. The house appeared neat and orderly. All family vehicles were parked in the driveway, packages remained untouched on the front porch, and mail had begun to pile up in the mailbox. As the officers knocked on the door, the eerie stillness of the home added an unsettling weight to the scene. After receiving no response, the officers obtained authorization to enter. What they discovered inside would leave a permanent scar on this quiet community. It was August 24, 2023, a calm evening in Uniontown, Ohio, when a concerned coworker of Melissa Dunham made a call that would set events into motion. Melissa, a dedicated professional and partner at her accounting firm, hadn't shown up to work in 2 days. Calls to her phone had gone unanswered. It was unlike her, a woman known for her reliability and commitment. Uniontown police arrived at the Dunham residence on Carnation Avenue at approximately 7:30 p.m. for what began as a routine welfare check. The house, a neat and quiet structure on a suburban street, betrayed no outward signs of the horror waiting inside. Officers noted the family's vehicles parked in the driveway, packages stacked by the door, and mail gathering in the box. Small indicators that something was amiss. After knocking several times and receiving no response, officers entered the home. The moment they crossed the threshold, a heavy silence filled the air, thick with an unexplainable weight. Moving cautiously through the house, they checked room by room. What they found in the bedrooms would forever haunt them. Jason Dunham, 46, and Melissa Dunham, 42, lay lifeless in their shared room. The 3 children, Renee, 15, Amber, 12, and Evan, just 9 years old, were each found in their own bedrooms. All 5 bore fatal gunshot wounds. There was no sign of forced entry, no sign of a struggle, but the handgun recovered at the scene, a legally owned weapon registered to Jason, told a grim story. This was no random act of violence. As officers processed the scene, a chilling picture began to emerge. It appeared Jason Dunham had shot his wife and children as they slept before turning the weapon on himself. The silence of the home, the untouched state of their belongings, it all added to the unnerving sense of finality. In a town where violent crime was almost unheard of, the magnitude of the tragedy was difficult to comprehend. This wasn't just a loss, it was an annihilation of an entire family, leaving a void that would ripple far beyond the walls of the Dunham home. On the warm evening of August 24, 2023, a routine welfare check at the Dunham family home turned into one of the most haunting discoveries in Uniontown, Ohio's history. Responding officers, guided by concern from Melissa Dunham's co-workers, arrived at the quiet Carnation Avenue residence, a home that had always seemed a symbol of stability and happiness. From the outside, there were no signs of anything amiss. The cars were parked neatly in the driveway, packages rested undisturbed on the porch, and the house stood silent, eerily unwelcoming. As officers entered, the silence inside was suffocating. Moving carefully through the home, they uncovered a chilling reality. 5 members of the Dunham family, 46-year-old Jason, 42-year-old Melissa, and their 3 children, Renee, 15, Amber, 12, and Evan, 9, lay lifeless. Each had succumbed to fatal gunshot wounds, with the children discovered in their respective bedrooms and the parents in their shared bedroom. The weapon, a legally owned handgun registered to Jason, was found near his body, immediately suggesting the possibility of a murder-suicide. The officers were struck by the stillness of the scene. There were no signs of a struggle, no shattered furniture, no broken glass, nothing to indicate a violent altercation. It was as if the family had gone about their normal routine, unaware of the tragedy that would soon unfold. Forensic investigators noted that the victims were likely asleep or in their rooms when the incident occurred, adding a deeply unsettling layer of calm to the otherwise horrific crime. Investigators worked swiftly to reconstruct the timeline leading to the massacre. Melissa Dunham, a highly respected partner at the accounting firm Bober, Markey, Fedorovich & Co., had been absent from work for 2 days. Her co-workers described her as reliable and punctual, making her silence immediately concerning. It was one of her colleagues who alerted authorities, requesting a welfare check after repeated calls and emails went unanswered. Further examination revealed that the children had missed school as well. Renee, the eldest daughter, was an active member of the high school band, and Amber and Evan were involved in scouting programs. Teachers and classmates reported no communication from the family, a stark deviation from their usual involvement. Jason, a stay-at-home father known to manage the household, also hadn't been seen. He was described by neighbors as quiet, reserved, and somewhat distant, but a devoted dad. As days passed without any sign of life inside the home, the welfare check became a necessity. What baffled investigators and the community was the complete absence of red flags. Uniontown Police Chief Michael Batchick stated that there had been no prior reports of domestic disturbances or police calls to the Dunham household. To those on the outside, the family seemed stable, active, and close-knit. Neighbors Edmund and Denise Gazdako, who lived across the street, recounted memories of the children playing outside and the parents attending community events. Melissa, in particular, was seen as the pillar of the family, a hard-working professional who balanced her career and family life with grace. "You never think something like this could happen to people like them," Edmund remarked, his voice heavy with disbelief. However, as investigators delved deeper, some inconsistencies began to emerge. While many neighbors described Jason as polite, others hinted at a more controlling demeanor. Melissa's co-workers later shared subtle observations of stress in her personal life, though nothing that suggested an imminent crisis. The forensic team conducted a meticulous examination of the crime scene. The handgun used in the killings was determined to belong to Jason Dunham, a registered firearm owner with no known history of violence. Ballistics matched the weapon to all 5 deaths, supporting the initial theory of a murder-suicide. Toxicology tests were ordered to determine whether substances like alcohol, prescription drugs, or illicit drugs played a role in the tragedy. Investigators also examined Jason's digital footprint, search histories, emails, and social media activity to uncover any hints of premeditation or motive. Financial records were combed through, as money troubles are often linked to such cases, but nothing alarming surfaced immediately. Despite the mounting evidence pointing to Jason as the perpetrator, the lack of a clear motive continued to haunt investigators. Why would a father, known for his devotion to his children, commit such an unspeakable act? Could it have been an impulsive decision fueled by internal struggles no one saw? Or were there deeper, hidden issues within the family that never surfaced? The only certainty was the profound sense of loss felt by the community. Uniontown, a small, tight-knit town, was left grappling with the enormity of the tragedy. Families questioned how they could have missed signs of trouble, and friends of the Dunhams struggled to reconcile the loving family they knew with the grim reality uncovered that day. As the investigation unfolded, the focus shifted to honoring the lives of the victims and supporting the grieving community. Melissa's co-workers remembered her as a brilliant and compassionate leader. Renee's bandmates shared stories of her dedication and talent. Amber and Evan's scouting groups created tributes, celebrating the siblings' bright, energetic spirits. The town came together in memorials and vigils, determined to ensure that the Dunham family would not be forgotten. Yet, even as the community mourned, the unanswered questions lingered, casting a shadow over the healing process. How could an ordinary family meet such an extraordinary fate, and could anything have been done to prevent it? These questions remain at the heart of the tragedy, a painful reminder of the hidden struggles that can exist in even the most seemingly perfect lives. Among the hardest hit was the Lake Local School District, where Renee, Amber, and Evan were not just students, but cherished members of their respective schools. Their sudden loss sent shockwaves through hallways that had once echoed with their laughter and filled classrooms where their presence had been a bright spot for teachers and peers alike. Superintendent Kevin Tobin was one of the first to address the heartbreaking reality that the district now faced. Speaking in a somber tone during a press conference, he conveyed the weight of the situation. "Our district is grieving deeply. The loss of 3 young lives, each so full of promise, is an unfathomable tragedy. Our hearts go out to everyone affected, and we are committed to standing together as a community during this incredibly difficult time." Recognizing the profound impact on students and staff, the district moved swiftly to implement its crisis response plan. A team of grief counselors, social workers, and mental health professionals was brought in, stationed across the schools to provide immediate support. "We knew we had to act quickly," said Tobin. "Our students were not just mourning their classmates, they were also grappling with fear and confusion about how something so tragic could happen so close to home." At the high school, where Renee was known as a shining star in both academics and extracurricular activities, the loss felt particularly acute. As a talented member of the marching band, Renee's enthusiasm and leadership had inspired those around her. Her bandmates struggled to make sense of her absence, and their first rehearsal without her was filled with quiet sobs and shared memories. Band director Michael Ferguson addressed the group gently, his voice breaking as he spoke. "Renee wasn't just a member of this band, she was its soul. Her passion and kindness touched every one of us, and we'll carry that with us as we move forward, one step at a time." To honor her memory, the marching band organized a tribute during an upcoming football game. They played one of Renee's favorite pieces, a rendition of Amazing Grace, which brought tears to the eyes of everyone in attendance. Students wore black armbands adorned with her initials, yet a solemn reminder of the friend and teammate they had lost. At the elementary school, where Amber and Evan had been students, the mood was equally heavy. Teachers described Amber as a lively and imaginative girl who always had a story to tell, while Evan was remembered for his curious mind and the mischievous grin he often flashed when solving problems in class. In their honor, the principal set up a memory wall where students could leave notes, drawings, and messages for their friends. The wall quickly filled with heartfelt tributes, ranging from crayon drawings of the siblings to simple but poignant words. "Amber always made me laugh," and "Evan was my best friend. I'll miss him forever." One teacher shared a particularly touching moment. A young student brought a hand-drawn picture of a rocket ship, explaining that it was for Evan, who had once told him he wanted to be an astronaut. "I think Evan can still see it," the boy said earnestly. "He'd love it." Parents were also grappling with how to help their children navigate such a devastating loss. To support them, the school district organized a series of community forums, inviting grief counselors to offer guidance on talking to children about death and handling their emotions in a healthy way. The forums became an outlet for parents to share their own pain and fears, with many expressing how helpless they felt in the face of such an incomprehensible event. "How do I explain this to my 8-year-old?" one mother asked, tears streaming down her face. "How do I make them feel safe again?" The district also coordinated with local churches and community centers to hold memorial services, providing spaces where families could come together to mourn collectively. Vigils were held, including one at the elementary school playground, where Amber and Evan had spent countless happy hours. Balloons were released into the sky, each one carrying messages from classmates and friends. One balloon read, "We miss you, Amber and Evan, fly high." For the school community, these efforts were not just about addressing immediate grief. They were about fostering resilience and unity in the face of heartbreak. Teachers and staff, many of whom had known the Dunham children personally, went above and beyond to provide a sense of normalcy for their students. "We wanted to remind them that they're not alone," said one teacher. The absence of the Dunham children left a void that could never truly be filled, but their memory became a rallying point for the community. Renee, Amber, and Evan were celebrated not just for who they were, but for the joy and love they had brought to those around them. "They were the heart of this district," said Superintendent Tobin during a candlelight vigil. "Their light may be gone, but their legacy will remain with us forever." In the days, weeks, and months that followed, the Lake Local School District continued its efforts to heal, offering counseling services and holding periodic check-ins with students and staff. For the grieving community, the journey toward recovery was slow but steady, built on the strength of shared memories, mutual support, and an unwavering commitment to honor the lives of the Dunham children. To their neighbors, the Dunham family was the embodiment of suburban normalcy, a warm, friendly family living in the heart of Uniontown, Ohio. Melissa, always smiling, juggled her career and family life with grace, while Jason was known for his quiet demeanor and dedication to his children. Renee, Amber, and Evan brought life to the neighborhood. But as the tragic events came to light, that image of serenity would be forever shattered. Neighbors recalled small moments: a cheerful wave from Melissa, the sound of Renee practicing her band music, the younger children racing down the street on their bikes. Yet even as they shared these fond memories, questions began to linger. One neighbor described Jason as reserved, even a bit controlled, but never someone who seemed troubled. Another remembered seeing Jason a few weeks before the tragedy, looking unusually tired. At the time, it felt insignificant, just the fatigue of a busy father. But now in hindsight, it seemed like a puzzle piece no one thought to examine. There were no outward signs of discord, no police calls to the home, no red flags visible to the close-knit community, and yet behind closed doors, something had gone terribly wrong. In the wake of this unimaginable loss, the neighborhood was left grappling with the same haunting question: how could such a tragedy strike a family that seemed to have it all? The tragedy of the Dunham family left Uniontown in a state of collective shock, disbelief, and profound grief. Just days after the grim discovery, the town came together in an extraordinary display of solidarity to honor the lives of Melissa, Jason, Renee, Amber, and Evan. On the evening of August 26, 2023, hundreds of community members gathered at Hartville Memorial Park for a vigil that would become a somber yet heartfelt tribute to the family. Candles illuminated the park, their flickering light casting long shadows as attendees huddled together, many holding photographs of the Dunhams or handwritten notes of remembrance. The sound of muffled sobs and whispered prayers filled the air, a poignant reminder of the depth of the loss. At the center of the vigil stood a makeshift memorial. A large display of flowers, teddy bears, and framed pictures of the family served as a focal point for mourners to pay their respects. Messages written on poster boards included heartfelt words like, "You will always be in our hearts," and "Gone but never forgotten." Speakers from various parts of the community shared their memories of the Dunhams. Melissa's colleagues from the accounting firm described her as a brilliant and compassionate professional who mentored others with kindness. Neighbors recounted the laughter of the children as they played in the yard, a stark contrast to the silence that now enveloped the home. Lake Local School District Superintendent Kevin Tobin spoke on behalf of the schools that the Dunham children attended. His voice trembled as he described Renee's talent in the high school band and the younger children's enthusiasm for learning and their involvement in scouting programs. He reminded everyone of the importance of unity during this time of tragedy, emphasizing the community's commitment to supporting one another in the face of such heartache. As the evening progressed, a moment of silence was held. Hundreds of candles were lifted high in unison, their warm glow a symbol of the collective memory and love for the Dunhams. A choir from the local church performed a rendition of Amazing Grace, bringing many attendees to tears. Finally, attendees were invited to share their personal stories and reflections. A neighbor described how Jason would often wave as he tended to his yard, always ready for a friendly conversation. Another spoke of Melissa's generosity, recalling her efforts to organize community events and fundraisers. One young girl tearfully recounted how Renee had helped her through a difficult time in school, a small but profound act of kindness that reflected the type of person she was. The vigil ended with a call for healing and remembrance. Balloons carrying messages of love and loss were released into the night sky, each one symbolizing a prayer for the family and a wish for peace. As they disappeared into the darkness, the crowd stood in silence, bound together by a shared grief and an unspoken promise to never forget the Dunhams. With the discovery of the Dunham family tragedy, the question weighing heavily on investigators and the community alike was, why? Why would Jason Dunham, a father described as quiet but kind, allegedly turn a gun on his own family before ending his life? As police pieced together the timeline, they were met with an unsettling silence. There were no prior domestic disputes reported, no police calls to the home, no outward signs of trouble. The family's neighbors, friends, and co-workers described them as active members of the community, involved in scouts, school activities, and professional commitments. Yet, even in lives that appeared so ordinary, stressors and secrets can linger beneath the surface. Some experts point to financial strain as a potential trigger in such cases. Melissa Dunham was a partner at a reputable accounting firm, providing a stable income while Jason's professional and financial status remains unclear in reports. Could an unspoken financial burden have contributed to the events of that day? Others suggest that Jason may have been grappling with undiagnosed mental health issues. Family annihilation, a term used in criminology to describe instances where one member takes the lives of their loved ones, is often linked to severe psychological crises. Feelings of failure, isolation, or even a misguided desire to protect one's family from perceived hardships can sometimes lead to such actions. Still, the absence of any warning signs or explicit evidence leaves the motive shrouded in mystery. Investigators noted that both Jason and Melissa legally owned firearms, a commonality in many American households. However, the accessibility of the weapon raises questions about safety protocols and decision-making leading up to the tragedy. Without clear indicators, speculation remains. Did Jason internalize stressors that no one noticed? Were there subtle signs that family, friends, or coworkers missed? Or was this a sudden and uncharacteristic snap in the face of an unknown personal crisis? The answers may forever remain buried within the walls of the Dunham home, leaving the community to grapple with not just the heartbreak of the loss, but also the haunting question of why it happened at all. The Dunham family tragedy left a community struggling to comprehend how such a horrifying event could unfold without warning. At its core lies a deeply troubling question. Could something have been done to prevent this devastating outcome? While Jason Dunham was regarded by neighbors as a quiet, if somewhat reserved man, there were no obvious signs of turmoil in his public demeanor. Yet experts warn that the absence of visible distress doesn't always mean peace within. Mental health professionals often emphasize that internal struggles can remain hidden, particularly in individuals who may feel societal pressure to maintain a facade of normalcy. Jason Dunham's role as a father and husband might have masked personal challenges or unspoken burdens. Family annihilation, a rare but deeply disturbing phenomenon, is frequently linked to psychological stressors such as financial difficulties, personal insecurities, or untreated mental illnesses like depression or narcissistic tendencies. Studies indicate that perpetrators in similar cases often suffer from feelings of hopelessness or a distorted belief that taking their family's lives is an act of mercy. In Jason's case, however, there were no reported financial issues, nor any known history of violence or abuse. This silence makes the tragedy even more chilling and harder to unravel. The importance of accessible mental health care cannot be overstated in the wake of such events. Warning signs, subtle as they may be, are often overlooked due to stigma or a lack of resources. This incident serves as a painful reminder of the need to destigmatize mental health struggles and encourage open dialogue within families and communities. If you or someone you know is experiencing distress, don't hesitate to reach out for help. Lives may depend on recognizing and addressing the silent battles we all sometimes face. To make sense of the events that unfolded in the Dunham household, experts in criminology and psychology have offered critical insights into cases of familial tragedies. Dr. Emily Carter, a forensic psychologist specializing in family crimes, explains, "In incidents like this, where a family member is believed to have turned on their own, it's often the result of a perfect storm of psychological, social, and situational factors. One of the most perplexing elements of the Dunham case is the absence of any prior indicators. According to law enforcement, there were no documented reports of domestic disputes or warning signs of impending violence. However, as Dr. Carter notes, the lack of visible signs doesn't mean that there weren't underlying struggles. Many individuals who commit such acts have hidden stressors, financial burdens, mental health issues, or unresolved conflicts that build over time." Jason Dunham, a father of 3, was described by neighbors as private and reserved. While his wife Melissa was outwardly engaged in her career and community, Jason's demeanor suggested a more withdrawn personality. Dr. Robert Lang, a sociologist who studies familial dynamics, adds, "In families where one member feels isolated or powerless, those emotions can manifest in catastrophic ways if left unaddressed." Another factor to consider is the impact of unprocessed trauma or untreated mental health challenges. Studies show that individuals under prolonged stress or with untreated mental health conditions can exhibit impulsivity and a skewed perception of reality. At the end, he continues that this leads to prolonged distress and disorders, which can exhibit impulsivity and a skewed perception of reality. Dr. Carter highlights, "It's critical to recognize that violent outbursts like this often occur when an individual feels they have no other options, whether that belief is rooted in reality or not." The murder-suicide nature of the case suggests an overwhelming sense of despair on Jason's part. Dr. Lang explains, "When individuals in positions of perceived authority, like the head of a household, feel they've failed in their roles, they may resort to extreme measures to regain a sense of control or to protect their loved ones in a distorted way." Lastly, Dr. Carter emphasizes the importance of community awareness and mental health resources. We need to create spaces where families feel they can ask for help without fear of judgment. Early intervention can make the difference between life and death. While the Dunham tragedy raises more questions than it answers, these expert insights shed light on the silent battles that may have contributed to this devastating event. They remind us of the importance of vigilance, compassion, and addressing the unseen struggles that can exist even within the most seemingly stable families. The story of the Dunham family is one that leaves us with more questions than answers. What could drive such a tragedy in a family known for their love and unity? We want to hear your thoughts. What do you think happened in the days leading up to this heartbreaking event? Share your theories in the comments below. If this story gripped you, please give this video a like to help others discover it. And don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth true crime stories.